Welcome to Whiskey's the Journey. My name is Peter Fasciano, and today we are coming to the end of my single pot still Irish whiskeys. And I don't know a better bottle to finish this up with than the Redbreast 27. As you can see, it's coming in this fancy case. It's got some magnets on the side, really strong magnets at the top, and a ruby red, very nice looking bottle. So just like always, let's go ahead and pour this thing, nose it, taste it, talk about it. Not really going to have much to say about it, but if you stick around until the very end, we'll give it a score. So Redbreast 27, this is batch number 3. As I just stated, it's a single pot still Irish whiskey, aged 27 years, and this is coming in at 53.1% ABV, 106.2 proof. It is cask strength, it's natural color, it's non-chill filtered, and like always, triple distilled, and there are 3 casks that they're using in maturation. They're doing the bourbon, the Oloroso sherry, and then they're doing, I believe it is port barrels, and there's some information out there. I think the 3 cask maturation, the bourbon, the Oloroso sherry, and the port barrels are all matured. And then I think at the very end, they take those 3 and then they put it into the port barrel as well. And I want to say 105 days. I think that was according to the Whiskey Wash. I'll leave a link to the article in the description below. But that's the only reference that I have of showing how this is matured and how long it's seasoned or finished in the ruby port barrels. 750 milliliter bottle, and I paid an eye-watering $507, $509 in Phoenix, Arizona. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the nose. All right, so right up front, there is definitely a good amount of oak and vanilla. I would probably put the vanilla note over the oak. Now, as far as the ruby port barrel goes, I'm not exactly sure what a port barrel is going to do with maturation or finishing, but it does have a really good amount of sweetness in it. And the sweet that I get is probably more towards the darker fruits, not quite raisins, dates, and plums, but more of a really deep, dark red cherry. Definitely some really good, solid, dark berry notes. Blackberries, raspberries. The ABV is certainly there and present up in the nasal cavity. As I'm swirling it around the glass, it is definitely extremely thick. I'm guessing the mouthfeel on this is going to be very viscous. And there is a note that I get in here, which is almost to the point of citrus, and it's leaning more towards the grapefruit side of the citrus, and not just grapefruit, but the white pith portion, almost a bitter grapefruit nose. There are definitely levels to this on the nose. Let's go ahead and get it on the palate and see what I think. Yeah, everything that I'm getting on the nose is transferring to the palate. The ABV is front and center, hits the tongue, radiates the mouth. You feel it in your throat, you feel it in your chest, and that warmth starts to radiate and transitions into that bitter grapefruit pith note. Definitely lots of vanilla. Certainly a lot of that berry note is coming through as well. The strongest thing on the palate is definitely going to be the vanilla, the oak, and then the berry note. That bitter grapefruit note hits the side of my tongue, and as it travels back to the back of the palate and the finish, it comes across as bitter. Probably a little bit too bitter for my taste. There is certainly a good depth to this. It changes, it evolves. Again, just like a lot of the Irish whiskeys, there is a touch amount of spice that I get in here, but the spice could be hidden behind the barrel influence, the tannin, and maybe the bitterness. And if I were to have to pin down a specific spice that I'm getting, it would be somewhere along the lines of a cooking spice, not a black pepper, but some of those ginger, nutmeg, cinnamon, that type of combination. Let's get that second sip down, concentrate on the finish, because you can't always trust that first sip. So let's see if that bitterness and the barrel or the oak is tamed down a little bit. or I might get a little bit more. That second sip kind of brings out more of the oakiness in whiskeys that I taste. So on that one, I get a little bit more of a spice. The cinnamon, the ginger, those fruity notes are still there. Those really deep, dark, rich cherries. A lot of the fruit medley, some of that berry, the blackberry, the raspberry is still there. That second sip, a little bit of leather and tobacco is also creeping in. I cannot shake the grapefruit bitterness that I get in here. And as far as this being 27 years old and having all of those rich, dark flavors, I'd say that the finish is medium to long, probably closer to a medium than it would be long. So let me go ahead and add a few drops of water to this, let it sit a little bit. I have very little amount of information to give you about my bottle specifically, and then we'll get on to the third taste with the water and then give it a score. I am going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. So with you, it'll just be a blink of an eye, but for me, it might be maybe a little bit longer than 10 minutes. And I think the rule of thumb here, you're supposed to let it open up in the glass a minute for every year in the cask. So typically, this is a 27 years. This is probably going to be somewhere around 30 minutes. So maybe I'll let it sit for a little bit longer than the 10 minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, so that was just about 30 minutes. So let me go ahead and check this really quick. My bottle at the very back has a code, L127731702. When I put this into a whiskey database, it pulls up the information on here. So it looks like mine was bottled in 2021. So which means if they're actually going right from the barrel to the bottle, this was barreled in 1994, which means I was 94. I was 24 years old, and I'm 53 right now. I'll be turning 54 in June of next year, June 12th. And I'm pretty sure I said this, but this is also batch number 3. So let's go ahead and see what the water has done to this. Typically, the water drops bring out more spice in that first or second sip after the water. I got to tell you that the legs on this are still incredibly thick. It's just sticking to the side of the glass. And the aromas that are coming out of the glass are a little bit more floral now. Even before I actually get to nosing it, I get some waxy floral notes coming out of the glass. But let's get it on the nose and see if anything's changed. All right, so a little bit floral. It brought out more vanilla, but it's tamed down that grapefruit pith note that I got. All of the berries are still there. Dark cherry, blackberry, raspberry. On the nose, I don't get much spice, but the oak and leather and tobacco are still here as well. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. All right, so lots and lots of vanilla. The berry note is definitely there. And on the palate, that bitter grapefruit note is now exponentially higher, which I didn't expect. I thought the water would have tamed it down a little bit, but it hasn't. Still get a good amount of oak. That tobacco leathery note is still there. It's very sweet on the palate, and I think that is because of the berries and the vanilla. Not much spice. I thought it was going to be a little bit more spicy with the water, but let me get that second sip with water, and then let's move on to the score. All right, adding that amount of water, I think it has rounded out a little bit more. The ABV or the ethanol punch is not, straight in your face. And as it sits a little bit longer, I have more of the spice, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the ginger, the leather and the tobacco are certainly there. And that grapefruit bitterness is still there. So if you are new here, my scoring system is out of 5 stars. And as much as I keep going back to this bottle, I have about this much left in there. I've sampled this out. A ton of people have tried it in my family and friends. I gave it to Josh and Aaron over at Stuff and Whiskey. They seem to like this quite a bit. Each time I go back to this, I want to like it, but I just don't. There is something about that grapefruit pith bitterness that doesn't sit right with me. And for the amount of money that I paid for this, obviously there's going to be that connection with price to quality. I think this is definitely a quality whiskey, but the profile of it is just not a profile that suits me. I like the vanilla. I like the leather tobacco notes. The berry notes that I'm getting with the dark cherries, the blackberries, the raspberry, all of that is really good. The subtle amount of spice that I get on the very back end is also pretty good. But all around, as everything is coming together in this glass, even though it seems to be a well put together whiskey, the profile, like I had already mentioned, doesn't suit me. And because I cannot get that price tag out of my head, and I want to like this more than I do, this is going to be rated at 3.25. I said this in my Redbreast 21 video. The profile of the whiskey doesn't fit into the profile of the Redbreast lineup. This one is completely on a different spectrum than the 21, and then obviously completely on the other side of the Redbreast 12, the Redbreast 12 cask strength, and the 15. If you want to throw in the PX and the Lestau and the Kentucky Oak in there as well, I think the 21 fits in the middle. The Redbreast 27 is way over here to the right, and on the left is everything else in the lineup. So that might sound a little bit harsh. I know there's a lot of people out there that absolutely adore this Irish single pot still whiskey. The profile is just not suited for me. So let me know in the comments down below. If you have had the Redbreast 27, what do you think of it? Where do you think it fits into the Redbreast lineup? And with that, I'm going to put this series to bed. Next up is going to be a 5-bottle series on international whiskeys. And then from there, I'm going to quickly jump in and finish off the year with single barrel bourbons. So if you've liked this video and you think you're going to like the stuff that's coming up, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Turn that bell notification on because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And like always, if you know somebody that's in the whiskey world that might get enjoyment out of this video or any of my videos, go ahead and share it with them. And until the next time, I hope you're enjoying your journey because I'm certainly enjoying mine. Talk to you later.